So I'm sure by now you've seen the video of Jonathan Petland, the Army sergeant harassing the young black man walking through his neighborhood, telling him to get out. And I want you to take a look at this picture of him. The bald head. What does it remind you of? Here's another picture, kind of see how he's kind of like being a douchebag with the tattoos and everything? This guy reminds me of a cop, but he's in the military. The bald head, the tattoos, the racist attitude. And I haven't heard anybody in the media talk about this because, see, we always give a pass to soldiers. Soldiers, are automatically thought of as heroes, when really the last moral war that we fought was World War II. Every war since World War II, Vietnam, Korea, all the Iraq and Afghanistan, those have just been wars of money, of companies trying to make money, of politicians using war as a way to get elected, as really nonsense. If you look at Vietnam, for example, that was said to be a war against communism, when really it was just pretty much, if you go back and look at the history, it was LBJ's way to get reelected, because Kennedy said he would never escalate, but as soon as he was assassinated, LBJ escalated to the max. And if you're from Texas like I am, you know that General Dynamics and Bell Helicopter really benefited from Vietnam, and the CEOs of those companies were friends of LBJ. And then Korea, similar circumstances. And then you get to Iraq, and everybody likes to talk about Iraq saying, well, we were attacked on 9/11, so that's why we went into Iraq and Afghanistan. Well, it's already been proven that, number one, Iraq had nothing to do with that. And yes, you can argue that Al-Qaeda had camps in Afghanistan, but that's because Afghanistan is like the Wild West. The Taliban control that country, and it's just like anybody with money can do what they want to. And bin Laden was from an extremely wealthy billionaire family from Saudi Arabia. And actually, all of the hijackers that flew planes into the buildings on 9/11 were from Saudi Arabia. So if we were really going to, get revenge for what happened on 9/11, we should have invaded Saudi Arabia, because that's where all of the terrorist people came from. That's where the bin Laden family's from. But of course we can't do that because of oil, money, Saudi Arabia. So anyway, really, like I said, World War II was the last moral war. But we always give the soldiers a pass. They're out defending us. They're defending us. They're not really defending us because, a couple planes flew in a couple buildings. Woohoo. Cops kill more people in the streets that died on 9/11, so that's not really an argument. But these soldiers, this is where, because the police like to recruit from soldiers. And this racist Jonathan Pennington, or whatever his hell his name is, he is a prime example. He's got the shaved head, he's got the douchey tattoos, he's got the racist attitude. He's a perfect candidate. He served in the military. He's part of that, because the military is like a gang. They have their secret names. Like every secret society has their little secret names. And in the military, they have their names too. They're, you're a general, or you're a corporal, or you're a sergeant, or you're this, a lieutenant, or a private, or whatever. And those are their little made up names. They like to say, well, that's history. It goes all the way back to, Rome and all that. Yeah, who cares? It doesn't mean anything. It's just made up stuff. Just because you walk around with a sergeant or a general or a corporal or whatever, moniker behind your name, it doesn't mean that you have 2 penises and you can bench press 10,000 pounds and you shit gold bricks. It just means that you have this little thing added to you because of your military service. But the thing about the military is they like to brainwash you. It's all about brainwashing. The Marines are famous for saying, They like to break you down and then build you back up. That's why it's so hard in boot camp, because what they want to do is they want to destroy who you are. They want to destroy you and make you think and act like them. So you'll follow orders. So you'll do things that consciously before you might say, that's not right. I shouldn't murder all of these innocent civilians. But, once you've been brainwashed and you've been torn down and rebuilt as a killer, then shooting kids and old ladies in Vietnam and burning them and everything, no big deal. Same thing with Iraq and Korea and all that. It's no big deal. You're a hero. You're a soldier. You're defending your country, when really you're not. Do you think Vietnamese people were going to invade America? No. Do you think the Koreans during the Korean War were going to invade America? Do you think Afghanistan or Iraq was going to invade America? No. That's the lie you're told by the politicians to get you all patriotic and behind the flag and willing to die for nothing. So anyway, these guys go over there and serve, and they get, used to killing and doing all that. And they get into the little gang of, I'm a sergeant, I'm a corporal, all of this bull crap. And then they get all this PTSD, and then they come back to America, and then they become cops. And this Jonathan guy, the way he was being racist towards this guy, that's where the cops get it, because majority of them come right out of the military because they like the guns, they like the camaraderie, and they're used to looking at everybody, the civilians, as the enemy. When they were cruising down the streets of Baghdad or going into Fallujah, everybody was a potential enemy. So now they have PTSD, and they come back and they're driving down the streets of Washington, D.C. or L.A. or New York or wherever, and they still have that same mentality. They look at the people, everybody's an enemy. Everybody's got a gun. Everybody's trying to kill me, because that's what they were taught in the military. And they also have that racist, attitude, because they're used to killing people that don't look like them. Because let's be honest, America is mostly white. And the military, yes, there are all kinds of nationalities that serve in the military, but the majority of them are white dudes. So they see their enemies over the past 20, 30 years have been brown people, dark-skinned people, people that don't look white. So that when they're out cruising the streets in America, their enemies are dark-skinned people that don't look like them. So this soldier's actions towards this black man walking through his neighborhood, to me, makes perfect sense, because it just goes hand in hand. Because if you take off his soldier's uniform and put on a cop's uniform, it would fit perfectly. His shaved head, his douchey tattoos, his racist attitude. This is the police force in the United States. The police is like the little brother of the army, of the military. They carry on the same traditions. If you're a sergeant, they have sergeant, general, commander, blah, blah, blah in the military. Well, they have that same thing. They wear the stripes on their badge, on their arms, and they call each other sergeant or corporal or whatever. It's their little, I think it's kind of sexual game of calling each other, you're the corporal. No, you're the sergeant. You're a private. Ooh, my privates. Anyway, so they carry on the little charade. And they wear the uniform like they were in the military. So now they're wearing, in the civilian life, police, they're wearing the uniform. And they still have the guns and the military garb and all that. And it just goes from one gang being in the army to being in a new gang, which is the police. The police is the largest gang on the planet. And, they call each other, these are my brothers and blah, blah, blah. And, they even have, like in the military, they have the American flag, but even the cops have their own, Blue Lives Matter flag, which is a changed American flag. So they still have their their flag, their idol that they worship. And they get out there and they're doing war in the streets. They did war in the streets in Iraq in the military. Now they're doing the war in the streets in Tulsa or Little Rock. It's just the same thing. And they keep their shaved heads and their douchey tattoos, and they get their little Punisher symbols and put them on their police cars like they did in the military. And they pretend to be soldiers. You know, they're soldiers for their whole life. And it's that same douchey attitude. And I think if people recognize this and realize the reason why cops are so screwed off in this country is because the police force is recruiting from the military, and these guys are PTSD. The majority of them are, like, if you look at the statistics, majority of soldiers, PTSD, racism, they're mostly alcoholics. In my life, all the people that I knew that served in the military, they were all drunks, alcoholics. You know, they are more likely to commit suicide. They're more likely to abuse their families. They're really horrible people. Really, you know, they're horrible people. I know that in America we got to like worship soldiers and cops, but really when you break it down statistically, they're drunks. They abuse their children. They abuse their wives. They're really horrible people. You know, it takes a certain mentality to want to be like, to have authority. You know, in the military you have authority, and in being a cop you have authority. So it's really what I call like little man syndrome. You know, you really don't have no power on your own, but once you put on that costume, that soldier's costume or that cop's costume, and you get a gun, it makes you feel powerful. And you feel like you're above the law and you can do whatever you want. Because in the military, I just shot at civilians, who cares? And in the police, I just shoot at civilians, who cares? I'm not going to get in trouble. It's war. That's the way they look at it. It's war. So, you know, I'm not surprised what this Jonathan Pendleton did to this black guy, because he's the quintessential, you know, archetype for military to a police officer. Even though he's not a police officer, he fits the mold. So it just makes perfect sense. So this is David Zoe Zizzles. Make sure to like and subscribe. Bye.